You know Graybar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Graybar does that.
This week's edition of the Show Before the Show podcast, the official podcast of minor league baseball. Sam Dykstra, Benjamin Hill. My name is Tyler Mon. Guys, how are you? What's going on?
We're doing great. This is Ben Hill, and he's doing great. I don't want to speak for Sam, so I'm doing great. I'm Ben Hill, and this is Sam Dykstra sitting to my left.
Sam, great? Not great?
No, I'm great.
Okay.
Currently on Miguel Cabrera watch.
3,000 watch.
3,000 watch. It's very exciting. Ben and I were talking about this before. This kind of feels like something that baseball does almost better than a lot of sports. Like, I don't think the NBA has like a number that's as golden as 3,000 necessarily. It's just fun to see history chased in this way. Miguel Cabrera got very close on Wednesday night. Got one hit away. So by the time you guys are hearing this, maybe he's already at 3,000. We're currently recording at 113. So the game's about to take place, but
yeah, he might be at 3,000 by the time we're done recording this.
That is true.
Yeah. By the end of this sentence, even I feel like he's coming up the bat pretty soon. But,
yeah. That's AJ Hinch said yesterday, be sure to get here early because he could bat in the first inning. You guys have TVs behind you. Is it on any of those?
It is on. Yeah. Looks like the Yankees are up right now.
So it's an anticipatory episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. You guys have to keep us updated if it happens during the show, so then people can hear breaking news on something a day later. The form
this will be a live reaction podcast. You hear like some of these things that do like that to trailers of movies, or
right?
whatever.
Yeah, this
us just shrieking loudly at Miguel Cabrera, lining a ball to left. If that's what happens, I don't.
This form of content is very unique in that way.
Newspapers, it works for us.
Well, hey, let's get diving in on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show as we're into now week number 3 of the minor league baseball season. Tyler Mon, Sam Dykstra, Benjamin Hill. Thanks for hanging out with us on this week's edition of the Show Before the Show. We got a lot coming up for you, including a very cool interview from Jacksonville coming up here in a little bit. If you want to get in touch with the show, podcast at MILB.com. You can also tweet at us. Minor League Baseball is at MILB. Sam Dykstra at Sam Dykstra MILB. Benjamin Hill is at Ben's Biz. I am at Tyler Mon. And let us know your questions, your thoughts, your comments, everything about the minor league season here in 2022 as we get deeper into the month of April. And we kick things off on this week's edition with a very cool announcement from minor league baseball, which has announced that the August 9th game between the Quad Cities River Bandits and the Cedar Rapids Colonels will take place at the, quote, now iconic MLB ballpark next to the historic Field of Dreams movie site near Dyersville, Iowa. Similar, and this is from the minor league baseball press release, similar to last year's MLB at Field of Dreams game in Dyersville, where the New York Yankees and Chicago White Sox donned throwback jerseys that replicated their 1919 uniforms, the host River Bandits will become the Davenport Blue Sox, their name during the 1913-16, 1929-33, and 1934-37 seasons, while the visiting Colonels will become the Cedar Rapids Bunnies, which was their name from 1904 to 1932 for the MILB at Field of Dreams game. Guys, I am not saying, but I am just saying, seems like the perfect episode for the first ever live Show Before the Show podcast at a minor league game. I'm just putting it out there for the powers that be at minor league baseball. But no, this is a very cool initiative. We had kind of thought that maybe this was coming after the wild success of the MLB Field of Dreams game last year. But Ben, what's the reaction that you've been hearing from across the game so far?
Yeah, well, it's breaking news right now, so I haven't talked to too many people about it, but this is definitely a unique thing because there hasn't been a minor league element at a special location MLB game before. Well, there has been a minor league element, but in a different sort of way. The Little League Classic, an annual major league game in Williamsport, was at the Williamsport Crosscutters home of Bowman Field. So that was a case where a minor league stadium was utilized for a major league game, but there's never been a minor league team that also got to participate in a major league event such as this. And the fact that it's, of course, two Iowa teams from the Midwest League. It was, of course, a natural tie-in, really the only logical tie-in. And Tyler, as you read, the fact that these teams are playing as with team names that are over 100 years old, the Cedar Rapids and Quad Cities or Davenport, Iowa, are locations that have, long and rich baseball histories. So it's not just the fact they're in Iowa, it's the fact that they can trace their own baseball lineage back to that era, 1919. Hopefully there weren't any, gambling scandals in the minor leagues in 1919, but who knows? It wouldn't have gotten the same press. But it's going to be a really exciting thing. Obviously great for the teams involved. I'll be looking forward to talking to both teams about, what their thoughts are on the whole thing. I'm sure they're really happy to participate. But having attended the Little League Classic in Williamsport, it made me aware of just how tightly controlled and what a huge operation Major League Baseball has for these special events. And so since they run this Field of Dreams game at the MLB level, I'm sure they'll be running it at the minor league level as well. And so I imagine a lot of the logistics won't be involving the minor league teams so much. But, a lot remains to be seen, and looking to digging into this a little deeper and maybe, just maybe, getting it on the road trip schedule. So road trips as a tangent on that, I've got several scheduled and hoping to announce those soon. But I did keep these dates open in case I could maybe swing a trip to Iowa for this game, because it's a pretty exciting event.
Yeah. And Tyler, you've kind of done this road trip before. I mean, you've been to Quad Cities. You went to the Field of Dreams set. Not the stadium that this game is going to be played, which is a little up the road, but like where actually Kevin Costner and all them had a catch. Like what was that experience like?
It was really cool. We my dad and I went last year, and we stayed in Cedar Rapids. We went through Quad Cities for a night. The Colonels were on the road, so we didn't get a chance to catch a Colonels game. We did check out their ballpark. We went to a game in Quad Cities. Got a chance to see, the Ferris wheel and the bridge and that gorgeous old ballpark, and catch a River Bandits game. And that's one thing that's really neat about this for these teams is it is, in their area. This is kind of their home market, if you will. It's not quite the same as, the Yankees and White Sox having to fly into somewhere small and bus somewhere for a little while and all that. This feels so much more connected to minor league baseball and the fact that it's being played in a small community in the middle of Iowa. And it's awesome. Yeah. As Sam noted, the MLB ballpark is connected to the movie site, but it is a different, and you'll probably all remember this from watching it on TV last year when they had the drone shots and the overhead shots. It's not the actual Field of Dreams from the movie that they play on for these games, but it's just a short walk. That's not open to the public outside of these games, so it kind of retains its own special value in the fact that, people are only really going to get a chance to check it out when they are there in attendance for games. But this is just so cool, and being able to bring the minor leagues into something like that is something really neat, and that is going to be a very neat venue.
I'm really looking forward to the look of this as well.
Yeah.
I mean, last year, the White Sox and Yankees obviously wore kind of specialty uniforms for this event and pulled off extremely well. Adding, Tim Anderson's walk-off home run was insane. I don't know if we can expect something similar out of that from a high A game like this out of the Midwest League, but just the look of this with the Davenport Blue Sox, which the logo that we have right now kind of looks like an old school Brooklyn Dodgers logo.
Yeah.
Instead of a B. Same color blue, and Cedar Rapids Bunnies, which I love the look of this. I'm hoping they start to sell hats of this pretty soon. It's a rabbit that extends across the state of Iowa.
Yeah, Cedar Rapids Bunnies sounds like one of the selections in a Josh Jackson Ghost of the Minors song.
It does.
Seriously, when you were listing that, Tyler, like when all the years that they used Cedar Rapids Bunnies, I was like, this is a ghost segment that maybe we'll have to use.
Yeah.
Come early August, but I'm all aboard. We'll see how we can plan things out, but I think this would be the perfect game for us to, let's say we have a meeting around second base over there in the cornfields, and that's where we record a podcast. I'm definitely up for that.
Yeah,
think
likely
that
not
sounds
during the
delightful.
game. Yeah,
Probably not during the game.
We would get a lot of good ASMR from, having a game actually happening in the background.
It's good Nat sound. Which of these rascally rabbits bounced around the base paths and the miners adore? It's a really cool idea, and it is coming up this year. Later on this year, you can get all the details on that game at MILB.com. And with that, we've got another story that is coming to the site. Ben's got a great story on a beloved figure in Syracuse, home of the AAA Mets, who is going to be immortalized at the ballpark in Syracuse. Ben, give us the story behind the story.
Yeah, Donald Johnston was better known at Syracuse's MBT Bank Ballpark, as well as throughout the Syracuse sports community, as Donnie Baseball. And he was a longtime press box attendant for the Syracuse Chiefs, then the Syracuse Mets. And he was a really unique guy. I actually met him a few times. And he ran that press box with a lot of care. And so when he passed away, it made a really impact, of course, among the Syracuse Mets organization, the entire Syracuse sports community, because he also worked for the hockey team there, the soccer team there, local high school athletics. It was a big loss for them. And of course, throughout the International League, with scouts as well, with members from the parent club, the Mets, and before that, the Nationals. There's a hole there now that can't be filled because Donnie Baseball was a really unique guy. So on Thursday, tonight, for when we're taping this, the team is naming the press box in his honor, the Donnie Baseball Johnston press box in Syracuse. And I remember when he died in January. So he's been gone for, just a number of months now. And I remember tweeting about it when it first occurred, and a lot of people were sharing memories, and almost everyone mentions, well, two things. One, what a hospitable guy he was. He always made sure that the announcers had enough water, the visiting broadcasters. And not just that, he remembered things about them, things they liked. Howard Kellman with Indianapolis, was a voracious reader. So Donnie would always make sure that he had new magazines when the Indianapolis Indians were in town, so Howard Kellman could read them, that sort of thing. Always remembering people's needs, going above and beyond in kindness and hospitality. And this is the other thing that people mention, he had this incredible ability to calculate numbers in his head. He was often called Donnie Stats, outside of a baseball context, Donnie Baseball or Donnie Stats. But if someone told him his birthday, if you told Donnie your birthday, he would calculate the number of days old you were in his head, pausing at the end to add the applicable leap year days as well.
That is unbelievable.
I saw this in action too. Last time I visited Syracuse, which I believe was 2018, I was in the press box briefly, and there was a sign on the broadcaster's door welcoming the Scranton Wilkes-Barre broadcasters. At the time, it was still Adam Marco and also Adam Giordino. And there was a welcome sign from Donnie on the door that said the number of days, hours, and minutes it had been since they were last in Syracuse. So he was a quirky guy in that regard, but deeply beloved. And it's the kind of story I like writing, to highlight some of the lesser known but crucial minor league ballpark characters. And RIP Donnie Baseball in Syracuse. It's a great thing that the team's doing, naming the press box after him, because that was very much his domain.
Yeah, it is really cool stuff. And people like that are such a fabric of minor league front offices and minor league communities and all that. And rest in peace to Syracuse's Donnie Baseball, and a very cool gesture by the franchise as well. And go ahead. I cut you off.
I was just going to say, of course, and I make this in the story, you have to say Syracuse's Donnie Baseball, as you just did, because
right.
Donnie Baseball has
the other one.
Greater connotations with the other one, Don Mattingly. But Syracuse wants everyone to know that they had their own Donnie Baseball. And, he's worthy of remembering too, of course.
Pretty cool stuff. So let's discuss a little teaser for what we got for this interview coming up this week. We are going to be talking with Jacksonville about a 2021 promo that I believe was originally a 2020 promo that then got rolled back a year due to the pandemic, then got rolled back due to a logistical issue for another year. Have we seen a lot of that this year? Ben, I know we talked a little bit before the start of the season about the promos that we were most excited to see in 2022, but there have to have been a lot of 2021 ideas that carried over for this year, I would think.
Yeah, or 2020 ideas.
Yeah.
I don't have a ton of examples on hand, but obviously everything planned for 2020 flat out didn't happen. A lot of that was able to carry over into 2021. But of course, 2021 had a lot of its own challenges. The season didn't start till May. And then for, depending on the area the team played in and, existing local state laws, regarding capacity restrictions with COVID, there was still a lot of hesitancy to put big promos on the calendar even last year. So we are seeing in 2022 certain things that were planned for 2020, including the focus of our next segment, but also one that does come to mind is Fort Wayne, their Copa identity, the Fightin' Apples. I forget what it is in Spanish, the Manzanas Luchadores, I believe. That was announced in 2020. And then same thing, when 2021 started, they were hesitant to get, to debut this identity with the uncertainty around the season. So now in 2022, you are seeing a debut for Fort Wayne's Copa team that was originally announced in 2020. And I'm sure there's other examples such as that around baseball, where we're still getting up to speed here in 2022. And as we've talked about before on the podcast, it takes time. And with so much transition with dealing with COVID, 2022 is definitely a rebound year, but I think, it'll still be a number of years before teams are fully back on track and settled in this new era and, operating as they did prior to 2020.
So we're going to discuss one of those types of promos with David Ratz of the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. Tell us about what's coming up.
Yeah, Tuesday, April 19th, a huge night in Jacksonville. Acuna of the visiting Gwinnett Stripers, Ronald Acuna, made his 2022 on-field debut in a AAA rehab as a visiting player. Doug Peterson, the coach of the Jaguars, came by and threw out the first pitch for the Jumbo Shrimp. But the pre-existing scheduled promotion was a Ray Charles bobblehead on Deaf and Blind Awareness Night, and the team got the Out of Sight band from the Florida School for the Deaf and Blind to come to the ballpark and perform as well. And Ray Charles was an alumni of that school. So a lot going on. A promo planned for 2020 finally happened here in 2022. And we're going to talk to Jumbo Shrimp promo director David Ratz all about it.
The one that we are pushing to 2022, which I was super excited about, and now is in storage, was our Deaf Blind Awareness Night. We have partnered with the Florida School for the Deaf and Blind, which is 25 minutes down the road. Ray Charles, their most famous alum. We reached out to the Ray Charles Foundation. We had permission to do a bobblehead in his likeness. So we have a Ray Charles bobblehead all ready to go. The school was going to come up and participate in the evening. And for those that aren't familiar, it's a boarding school. So the students go home on the weekends, and around holidays, they're only in town during the week. But the school is not traveling, obviously, because of COVID and everything. And, the promotion, while it's cool to give away a bobblehead, the whole point behind it was to get the school and the students involved. So they can't come out this year. So we have pushed that with the blessing of, the school and Ray's Foundation to 2022 so that we actually can have the students come out and participate.
Here on the Show Before the Show podcast, myself, Benjamin Hill, sitting next to Sam Dykstra, Tyler Maughan in Colorado, and joining us from Jacksonville, Florida, North Florida, not the Panhandle, I don't believe, but North Florida. I'm still working out my geography. Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp promo director, David Ratz. David, thanks for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Good to see everybody again.
Yeah, and we would consider you a friend of the podcast, a friend in real life, but we're not just having you on because you're a friend. You are talking 2 days after a really significant promotion you did, originally scheduled for 2020, then couldn't make it work in 2021. So the long-awaited Ray Charles bobblehead giveaway, Deaf Blind Awareness Night, lots going on at the ballpark, and we'll get into all that. But give us a little background on what, for those who did not follow this 2+ year saga, tell us a little bit about Ray Charles' his connection to Jacksonville and why you gave away his bobblehead.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate you having me on again. And so yes, Jacksonville and Ray Charles. As any promo director who lives in a city, you're always looking for historical figures that have come through that maybe you can do a fun bobblehead of or do something like that. So we look and I see Ray Charles attended the Florida School for the Deaf and the Blind, which is 25 minutes down the road in St. Augustine. He attended the school for actually 7 years, which is wild in that they never mention that in the movie or anything like that, which is crazy. So, we got to thinking that'd be a cool bobblehead. How can we do that? The significance of it, because, you always get, if it's not a player, some people will reach out and like, why are you doing that bobblehead? So thought maybe there's a deaf blind awareness element to it. And, my friend Hunter in Myrtle Beach, he had done Deaf Awareness Night the year prior, I believe it was, and was phenomenal. They did sign language jerseys. They did all that cool stuff. So I reached out to him and kind of got some, some inspiration as well as do's and don'ts for the night, which would be kind of cool. Then reached out to the school itself to see if they'd be interested. And then also reached out to Ray Charles's estate and his foundation and, offered our plan, said, this is what we want to do. We would love to make a monetary donation to his foundation to have, essentially your tie-in or buy-in to do the bobblehead and do the rights. They were 100% on board. They loved the idea. So we did a donation to his foundation, and then we had the school all lined up. They were super excited about it. And yeah, March 2020 happened. So there's that. And we're sitting on them, obviously no schools traveling, nobody's doing anything. They've been sitting in storage, and then we opened back up in 2021. Still couldn't make it happen with the school. We obviously were playing baseball. We could have done the giveaway, but it was important to us not to do it until the school could actually do field trips again and come out and be a part of the night. And so we held it another year, and just hoping that in 2022, things would open back up and the school would be able to travel, and started having those conversations in the winter of 2021. And the school let us know that, yes, they were open to coming back out and leaving campus and doing a field trip. And we just started getting everything lined up, got it lined up for 2022. It was incredible. I don't say that lightly. It was, in talking with the school administrators and the music teachers, the first school field trip for the Florida School for Deaf and the Blind in 2 years. It was also the largest crowd they have ever performed in front of by double. Their largest crowd performance was 2,000 people, and we had 5,400 people here that Tuesday. It was incredible. And just to see the school come out, the band, the school bust in another 85 people just to watch the night. We had First Coast Sign Language interpreters on site. So the whole first base side of our seating bowl had interpreters for everything, interpreters down on the field for the anthem. It was pretty cool. It was a really good night, and capped off by the fact that band can sing. It wasn't just, a throwaway of, oh, cute, let's get some kids out here and listen to them. It was actually a solid, legit anthem, which was phenomenal. And it just turned into a really, really special night seeing everybby down there. So it was cool.
Yeah, and this band has an incredible name as well, the Out of Sight
Yes.
band.
Yeah. So when we first were talking to him, and the music teacher said, yeah, we're called the Out of Sight band. And I said, how am I supposed to react? What am I allowed to say? And they said, no. The students named it. They're in on the joke. They think it's hilarious, which was phenomenal. And so it's funny that you mentioned that. Last week, I got a call from Major League Baseball, not from you guys, asking, hey, we saw the marketing for Deaf Blind Awareness Night, and it says it's going to be an out of sight night at the ballpark. Sure, that's the way you want to go. And so we explained the tie-in and the band name and all that stuff. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. That's great. We love it. Awesome. Just wanted to be sure. So, it was kind of funny.
Yeah, and you mentioned, over 5,000 people being at the ballpark. You would have had an above average Tuesday night crowd because of what you were doing with the school and with the Ray Charles bobblehead giveaway. But you end up getting Doug Peterson, Jaguars coach, formerly an Eagles Super Bowl winning coach, to come to the ballpark and throw out the first pitch. So all of a sudden you got Doug Peterson there, and then you're playing the Gwinnett Stripers, Atlanta's AAA team, and Acuna makes his 2022 on-field debut. So you ended up with quite a Tuesday, to say the least.
It was a perfect storm, without a doubt. It was a lot of fun. Just some really cool atmosphere in the ballpark. It was great. We also got to unleash our new promo toy, which is a souped up off-road Polaris golf cart that is powered by 8 CO2 tanks, 2 train horns, and a Gatling gun that shoots 74 t-shirts in a minute. So we got to pull that out on Tuesday as well. There's 2 of them in existence. The Cincinnati Reds have one and we have one. And so that was the 2022 debut of that beast as well. So it was a very interesting evening, to say the least.
Yeah, and I'm sure just having Acuna there, we were talking before, like the second that gets announced, there's lots of people buying tickets. But how much did that kind of work hand in hand with trying to do Deaf Blind Awareness Night and getting all these people get to see the Out of Sight band for the first time?
That was the coolest part, because we're just sitting there seeing, they make the announcements and we see the pre-sale jump and it's cool. I mean, look, he's a superstar. There's no denying that. We had people calling from Atlanta that were driving down and all this, and it was fun. And that was honestly where my mind went, is there's going to be so many people here that are going to see this night and see this band, and it's going to be great. Did half the bobbleheads maybe make their way back to Atlanta at the end of the night? Maybe so, but that's beside the point. It was great. I mean, we reached out to the school the day after, thanked them for coming, and just the note we got back of how incredible it was for them and to be out in front of all these people was just it tugged on the heartstrings for sure.
Well, and it's kind of fitting that maybe half the bobbleheads of Ray Charles ended up back in Atlanta, a guy who's saying Georgia's on my mind. And I'm curious as to the reaction from his foundation and the people who honor his legacy. David, you said you were in contact with them and you guys made a monetary contribution. There are so many ways that Ray Charles has been commemorated and celebrated, and minor league baseball teams probably aren't super common on that list. When you got in touch with them, what was their reaction? I would imagine something that's kind of unorthodox from the standard is probably very cool to them, and especially something that, like you said, I mean, his time at the school was not in the movie. It's not something that's extraordinarily well known about him. So to honor a period in his life that was very formative, but maybe not as well known, I would think they probably thought that was really cool.
Yeah, they did. They did think it was cool. And you're right. We were the first minor league baseball team to ever reach out to him, for sure. It was interesting, and again, from the school's perspective too, because he was there for 7 years, but he was kicked out. He was kicked out because he kept skipping school to hop on a train to go to Jacksonville to play in the local jazz clubs. That's how he got his start. So the history there it's interesting, because while they all recognize that happened, it's not something that either one are trumpeting necessarily. So it's just a really cool backstory.
When you first learned of this chapter in Ray Charles's life, I mean, it's a very neat tie-in that it's because he ended up leaving school so often to go to Jacksonville to play in jazz clubs. Is that something that's celebrated around the Jacksonville community? Otherwise, I mean, are there, markers that denote like, oh, this is the first place Ray Charles played? Is it something that people in Jacksonville are aware of?
To some extent, yes. There's a neighborhood, I guess, the west side of downtown. It's called La Villa. And sadly, a lot of that area, A, was destroyed in a fire, but B, was not the best part of town back in those days. However, there's a historic theater and museum. It's called the Ritz Theater and Museum that, was rumored that was one of the places he may have played back in the days, and they've hosted exhibits. And there's a couple things around town, but it is kind of one of those hidden secret gem type of things.
And one thing, I mean, we've been talking about Ray Charles this whole time and the promotion. We haven't talked about the bobblehead itself. I know this is a audio medium here, but kind of take us through the design of it and what you guys landed on for a design.
I was seeing one if I had one on my desk, but I think I may have given it to somebody. So basically took, as any bobblehead comes to life, you're like, oh, wait, I want the face from that picture, the hands from this picture, the sunglasses from this picture, and you have in your mind what it'll look like. And then, we wanted them sitting down at a piano. There's, the team logo on the front. And I mean, it looks like, the Jamie Foxx trailer pick from Ray, kind of him at the piano. But obviously more to Ray's liking than Jamie. So it turned out really cool. But yeah, it's him seated at the piano with a microphone coming up, sunglasses on, and head bobbling away, which, is quite accurate.
Yeah, and Ray Charles has connections all over that area. I wish I remember more specifics, but on one of my road trips years ago, I drove past a sign that said, like, I don't think it was his birthplace, but a town he lived in, Greenville, Florida, had a statue of him in like the little town square. So I got off the exit and went to the town of Greenville, Florida to see this Ray Charles statue. And what I remember most of all is that this town in the middle of the summer, it felt like no one was there. No one lived there. It was kind of eerie just because it felt, I don't want to quite say post-apocalyptic, but it was a small town and there was just virtually no signs of life. You could, see the humidity, and there's this Ray Charles statue. So if you're in the area, Greenville, Florida, that's a good bit of Ray Charles tourism. But, to close it with talking about more Ray Charles, I imagine you played his music during the game. We're all familiar with Ray Charles, but as we've had this conversation, I was like, I don't really know his discography very well, or some of the, really classic cuts. I heard a great duet with him and George Jones on country radio during one of my road trips last year. But beyond that, in putting together a playlist for the evening, I know you're a music fan in general. What would you recommend as some, standout Ray Charles songs or albums?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'm looking back and was about to pull up. What did I have? Ray song. So the songs we did last night. Or 2 nights ago, he did a version of Country Road, Take Me Home Country Road, which was pretty solid. We played that. Obviously, Hit the Road Jack, What I Say, and Unchain My Heart was pretty solid. And then we had a club remix of Hit the Road Jack, which, you gotta get some bass in it. And we did that. So it was cool. We it's funny, myself and our AGM, we were sitting there debating, because it's not just Ray Charles night, it's Deaf Blind Awareness Night. So, searching for other deaf or blind musicians with music that's upbeat enough to play in park is somewhat challenging. You have, Jeff Healey, who made the appearance in Roadhouse, if you're familiar, that actually was a blind guy playing as blind musician in that movie. So one of his songs we could use. And then we were sitting here and we said, so Stevie Wonder, also blind, it's Deaf Blind Awareness Night. We could play some Stevie, but are people going to hear Stevie and think we're idiots because, hey, that's not Ray Charles, that's Stevie Wonder, you morons? Or are they going to say, oh, it's Deaf Blind Awareness, that's why they're playing Stevie? So we decided not to go with the Stevie because we thought people would think we were making a mistake, even though we weren't.
Well, excellent. Well, it's great to hear all about it. A long time in the making, and 5,000 people on a Tuesday night, take that, other teams in minor league baseball. It's tough to do in the month of April. So nice confluence of events there. David Ratz, promo director, Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. Thanks yet again for being on the show before the show podcast.
Much appreciated, guys. And I'm hop off here talking with our hot air balloon pilot, who will be here on Friday for our best seat over the house promotion.
All right, I'll probably at least text you about that one, but looking forward to hearing how that one goes too. It's a mile a minute in minor league baseball during the season, and very few teams have as good a promo schedule as the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. So we'll be talking about them all season with this, that, and the other thing. You just never know.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right, listen up, nacho chips. Quiet down, crispy potatoes. This is the moment Velveeta's been preparing you for, and you're not about to crack under pressure. Today's the day to go all in on the drip. Velveeta's Heat and Eat Queso is the MVP of any game day spread, so stick by them, and you'll be golden. Now get out there and make delicious history. No tailgate party is complete without Velveeta.
All right, let's talk some on-field stuff for this week's episode of the show before the show. We're going to kick things off with a conversation that has been around the minor leagues, especially for the last couple of years, and now, of course, is approaching the major league level, and that is one of pitch clocks, on-field clocks, which have drastically shortened the time of minor league games over the last couple of seasons. Last year, I remember we're talking with a couple of broadcasters who are now in the thankfully rechristened California League in Single A about what the pitch clocks had done in that league. The Cal League, obviously notorious for high scoring games, long games, games that just dragged with pitching changes and with crazy offensive innings and all of that. The Cal League has eliminated its craziest offensive environments, but the pitch clock really helped last year speed games along. There was a story this week by ESPN.com's Jeff Passan, which of course got a lot of notoriety, discussing how minor league pitch clocks have worked, how they have sped up the game, and how they've kept the flow of the game better. It's not just that the game is faster, that it seems to move at a steadier pace. I know our friend of the podcast, Alex Friedman, tweeted about a game between Oklahoma City, the team for which he broadcasts, and I believe El Paso. And I think that one clocked in at under 2 hours, if I remember correctly. So there are a lot of things that have been discussed with the pitch clocks, but above all, they seem to be working and speeding up games. Sam, give us the breakdown of what you're hearing about the pitch clock so far in 2022.
Yeah. So the reason why we're talking about this now is because pitch clocks were actually starting to be enforced last Friday. So, you may have started to, if you were at a ball game over the weekend across any of the minor league levels, you might have seen an automatic ball call because the pitcher didn't, come set or didn't throw the ball enough in time, or even automatic strike calls. There was at least one instance that I know, and there might have been some others, but there where somebody struck out the side on each 8 pitches because of automatic strikes. Like, you're going to see that. And yeah, it can kind of be.
And that's because of a hitter.
What?
That's because of a hitter's violation.
Hitter's violation.
Right.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. The hitter also has to, we call it a pitch clock, but the hitter also has to be ready in a certain amount of time. So just to reiterate what those rules are for this year, when nobody is on base at all full season levels, the pitcher has to deliver the ball within 14 seconds. There's big clocks all around the place. They're generally aware of how quickly they have to go. If there are runners on base, it's 18 seconds at AA, high A, and single A, 19 seconds at AAA. So they're trying out something different there. But like you said, there were a couple games this weekend that I was following along, finishing in around 2 hours, 20 minutes, 2 hours, 30 minutes. I like you said, there was a 9-inning game that went under 2 hours. This really is having an effect. Just look at what the data is telling us right now. In 2021, the average 9-inning game in AAA lasted 3 hours and 4 minutes. Right now, and this is only including, pitch clock data going back to last Friday. So even before that, when we weren't enforcing the pitch clock, this is included in this data, we've shaved off 11 minutes. It's an average of 2 hours and 53 minutes right now. We expect that to go down as more and more games are using the pitch clock. Watching the game, there's a certain rhythm to it. It's a lot more enjoyable to watch. I know that passing story that came out was pretty pro the pitch clock, and there was some reaction in it that was pretty pro from the players, and it's easy to see why. For certain aspects, I saw some people reacting on Twitter, some players, some managers saying it's still going to take some getting used to. Tucker Davidson of the Braves said he's going to have to see it in a second start. He didn't really like it the first time. There's going to be growing pains with anything like this. That's such a big change. But the fact that we're already shaving off 11 minutes, that's going to drop consistently. Again, looking back, you mentioned last year in what was then called Low A West, California League historically, how games were able to drop. It was 2 hours and 43 minutes last year was the average Cal League game. That's what we're kind of hoping for here, is getting in maybe in that 2 hour 40 range with these pitch clock changes. But to see them used so effectively early on, it's great to see. Hopefully that's going to continue to be enforced further and further we go into the season. And hopefully it'll become second nature. Like I said, these stumbling blocks, everybody's going to get over them in the first few weeks. And we could be seeing more games under 2 hours while still playing 9 innings, which would have been crazy to think about just a couple of weeks ago.
And, it's something that we have pointed out from time to time. This is not an invented rule. There have always been rules on the books in baseball about the time frame in which a pitcher needs to deliver a pitch, in which a batter needs to be ready to see a pitch. They were not enforced by digital clocks, of course, but this is something that has been on the books. Now it's being enforced in a visible manner. And I think it's better than some alternatives that have been floated, like 7-inning games. I know the AAA Mexican League, or what is formerly known as a AAA league, The Mexican League has certain days of the week now in which it will be playing 7-inning games instead of 9-inning games. I think it's Tuesdays and Wednesdays. There was an announcement about that last week. So it's, or a couple of weeks ago. To me, the pitch clock thing is greatly preferable to that. And it works. And I think the thing that we always hear from people is, after you notice it for the first time, you don't really notice it again. That's one of the big elements of the pitch clock. It just becomes something that is part of the fabric of what you are experiencing at a baseball game, and not in a negative way. So we continue to see the expansion and development of that here in 2022. Our second topic this week, strike two, let's call it, is the St. Louis Cardinals slugging second baseman Nolan Gorman. Of course, drafted as a third baseman by the Cardinals, shifted over to second when the Cardinals acquired another Nolan Arenado, to play at third at the big league level. Nolan Gorman, 7 homers in 7 games at one stretch, which was his 7th, capped off on Tuesday night. He's been a monster and started this season 0 for 9 with 5 strikeouts in his first 3 games and has just obliterated the ball ever since. How close is he getting to St. Louis right now?
I would think he's got to be pretty close. I mean, this is a guy that we saw last year at AAA for a pretty significant sample. He was young it was his age 21 season. He was young for AAA, but he got 328 plate appearances last year for Memphis. So we know entering the season that he was going to be basically knocking on the door, at least offensively. Defensively, still a work in progress at second base. I know anybody you talk to with the Cardinals raves about the progress that he's made over the last year plus, learning a new position and really taking that to heart and working with some of the Cardinals infield coordinators to get more fluid and more natural at second base. But offensively, for me, the big thing to watch for Nolan Gorman coming into this year in his return to AAA was he got the ball on the ground a lot last year with the Redbirds. 45% of his batted balls were ground balls last year. Now that's down to 29.6%. So we've always known he has plus power. That goes back to his draft days. He was winning high school home run derbies just a couple of years ago. He's always had tremendous raw power. But if you're putting the ball on the ground, you're obviously not tapping into that. He's starting to do that now. I mean, 7 homers in 7 games is not natural. Like, that's not going to happen all the time. We're not saying he's capable of going on a 1 homer per game rate for the rest of the year. I mean, you look at some of the outlying numbers, like 70% of his fly balls right now have been home runs. He has no other extra base hits, no doubles, no triples. All of his extra base hits are home runs. Stuff like that's going to even out in time. And yes, he is striking out a little bit higher this year, 36% of the time. That's up from 19.2 last year. But in terms of putting all the pieces together and looking like the Nolan Gorman that we always thought he could be, which is a slugging first infielder, regardless of position, yeah, he's getting pretty close. I mean, the Cardinals have a second baseman right now. He's off to his own good start in Tommy Edman. And I thought coming into the year that Tommy Edman didn't have that great of a year last year. It was basically just going to come down to Gorman pushing for the spot. It's a little bit more difficult for him to do that now, but you know, the Cardinals have always been high on Nolan Gorman, and they really do envision him as their second baseman of the future. He's right now second in the minor leagues in home runs with those 7 blasts for Memphis. Another week or two of being this hot, and they will find a spot for him one way or the other. I feel like we're probably going to see his major league debut by the end of May, maybe even sooner if he continues to punish the ball like he has, but certainly an encouraging start in all the right ways for Nolan Gorman, starting with, like I said, him getting the ball off the ground and really tapping into that tremendous raw pop.
And let's move from a top infield prospect to the top catching prospect in baseball and his future battery mate at the big league level. Both of them, the Baltimore Orioles organization, Adley Rutschman and Grayson Rodriguez. And our topic of conversation today is, which of those guys, Sam, do you think makes it up first? Adley Rutschman starting a little bit behind the 8 ball. He had the lat strain in spring training and, still on the road back from that. His future battery mate in Baltimore, Grayson Rodriguez, we're coming up on his 4th start for AAA Norfolk so far this year. 2-0 record, a 1.26 ERA. He's allowed 5 hits and 2 walks in 14 1/3 innings while striking out 23. What do you forecast for these guys for the next several weeks or months?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that coming into the spring, would we have been expecting to have this type of debate? And it's tough to have a clear answer here because, like you mentioned, Adley Rutschman, he's got a triceps injury. He's coming back from that. The Orioles keep giving updates that are really promising and saying, like, you know, he's progressing well. He's hitting this week. He's doing BP. He's doing all the right things. but we just haven't seen him yet. Meanwhile, Grayson Rodriguez, like you said, is shoving through 3 starts for AAA Norfolk. Watching his start last night, like he's not really getting challenged against these AAA hitters. He mentioned in a story for MLB Pipeline, like I'm just focused on getting 2 strikes and then we can start to figure out how to strike these guys out. But it's working incredibly well. He has maybe the deepest pitching repertoire in minor league baseball right now. It's been really fun to see Grayson Rodriguez push that way. The other funny thing is that the Orioles right now, I think they lead starting pitching WAR at this stage. And there's some factors that go into that. Obviously, Camden Yards.
Just like we all predicted.
I know, right? Yeah. I mean, it's early sample size garbage. Take it for what it's worth. But it's not like the Orioles right now have been unsuccessful with their starting pitching, again, in a way that we wouldn't have expected. So I think it's all going to come down to how do they treat Adley Rutschman when he comes back? Is he going to get a glorified rehab assignment? Is he going to be sent to Norfolk to establish himself for like 2 weeks? Is it just a couple games? We'll see. But with every start, Grayson Rodriguez looks more and more major league ready, and you got to get him a challenge at some point. And I don't know. We were talking about this amongst ourselves yesterday, some of the Pipeline folks. I put a month from now as a potential major league debut date for Grayson Rodriguez. So that would be around May 20th. Some other people thought later in June, but again, at a certain point, there's just nothing else for him to prove. Maybe he'll be challenged one of these days, but all of his pitches are working. They're getting swings and misses by the dozens. It's been really, really fun to watch it. And it's on the table now that Grayson Rodriguez could see Baltimore before Adley Rutschman, depending on how that recovery continues to go for Adley Rutschman and his triceps.
That's on what's going on the field across the minor league baseball landscape through the first couple of weeks. Ghost of the Minors coming up with Josh Jackson. We'll be back to wrap up the show on the other side.
We interrupt this podcast to bring you another thrilling edition of Ghosts of the Minors. Now, here's your correspondent and host, Joshua Jackson.
Welcome back to Ghosts of the Minors, in which all of you out there in Radioland must identify the legitimate historical ball club hiding amidst the fraudulent pair. One once climbed to great heights. The others never actually got off the ground. In the last segment, I asked you which of the following minor league baseball teams did at one time exist. A, the Ketchum Ketchup Dunkers. B, the Wink Sputters. C, the Caribou Crispers. You get an extra helping of sour cream and chives if you picked B, the Wink Sputters, who picked off base runners while honoring the potato pickers of Wink in Winkler County of West Texas in 1937 and 1938. The Sputters budded alongside 6 other clubs as they were a charter member of the West Texas-New Mexico League. In that 37 season, if you blinked, you missed Wink, as the Sputters never sputtered or stuttered in their quest for the circuit's first crown. In fact, the Sputters were real hot potatoes, getting standout performances from the likes of novel Barney Barnhill, Ulrich Dopey Benny, Orby W. Hay, Robert B. Hood, and Eddie Gines, a 19-year-old 145-pound shortstop credited with a .371 batting average that year. In 1938, the Sputters tried to russet the clock, believing with a little determination UConn prevent a title famine with back-to-back championships. Well, the Sputters may have spouted lies, but it turns out they didn't have legs. The reigning champs were in first at the end of May, but those Sputters peeled out over the next few months, finishing 63 and 65. The fourth place standing did allow Wink to winkle into the playoffs, but Hack Miller's Lubbock Hubbers baked them taters, 3-0. In January 1939, word around the potato cellar was that the Sputters were for sale, and when the new West Texas-New Mexico season blossomed, Wink had tinkled out. And that's how the Sputters got fried. Now, on to the question for next time. Which of these busy-bodied clubs had a few productive seasons in the minors of yesteryear? A. The Provo Silver Haulers. B. The Appleton Papermakers. C. The Hollywood Producers. Want to know the answer? Get working. Or tune into the next Ghosts of the Miners. But for now, you'll have to excuse me. My producer Ben Hill has been asked to help out on Earth Day, but he's needed on his home planet.
Huge thanks to David Ratz a little while ago from the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, Josh Jackson as well. MILB.TV, your place to catch all the top talent in minor league baseball. Sam, what are you watching on MILB TV this weekend?
So for the upcoming week, I will suggest, because we won't be talking to you guys before this, I will suggest people tune in for the game next Thursday in Somerset. It will be a rivalry game of some sorts. It will be Portland Sea Dogs at the Somerset Patriots. Next Thursday just so happens to be Anthony Volpe's 21st birthday, top Yankees prospect. So see if he hits a birthday blast for his own birthday. But yeah, tune in for that game. I might be able to announce something soon specifically about that one, but just keep that one on your calendar. It's going to be probably a very good game anyways. Red Sox left-hander Brandon Walter, if they continue this schedule, he seems to be the projected starter. He's gotten off to a really good start there in Double-A. Volpe can turn it on at any time. He actually just hit I think it was his second home run of the season the other night in Hartford. Hartford seems like a good place for him to turn it on and start to get better offensively at Double-A as he learns more about the level. Fully expect him next week to be up to full speed at that specific spot. And plus being at home, him being a Jersey guy, lots of good things to watch next Thursday between Somerset and Portland. And like I said, keep an eye out for my Twitter feed where I might have an announcement about that specific game very soon. Tyler, what do you got your eye on?
I, too, have a Red Sox affiliate as one of the two to watch. The Salem Red Sox will be on the MILB.TV airwaves against the Charleston River Dogs, and it's a matchup of 2021 first-round high school shortstop draft selection. So you've got Marcelo Meyer on the Salem side, who has started off pretty well, 317, 404, 415 slash line for him. On the other side, Tampa Bay Rays number 9 prospect Carson Williams, who's been really good so far, 296, 367, 593. He is with Charleston. So the River Dogs on the road at Salem to take on the Red Sox. So you can catch that game from Salem Memorial Ballpark on MILB.TV. And that'll do it for this week's edition of the Show Before the Show podcast. For Benjamin Hill and Sam Dykstra, I'm Tyler Mon. We'll talk to you next week.